Okay, so this is 3.1. We just finished on this past test linear functions. Everything was linear. We're going to do just a section on quadratic functions. If you remember, quadratic functions graph U-shaped curves like that. Now back on maybe test 4, test 3, we had quadratic equations that looked like this. Maybe x squared plus 3, something like that. You had to find 3 points. You had to find the vertex, which was going to be 0. I told you that the vertex x was going to be 0 because this is the equation, a quadratic equation. The vertex formula is negative b over 2a for the vertex x, the x value of the vertex. This one does not have a b term. So in this particular type, b is 0. Well, if you have 0 over anything, that vertex x was 0. Then we plugged 0 in, so 0 squared plus 3 was 3. That was your vertex. Now remember, it was a U-shaped curve, so once we have the vertex, I think we just added 2 to the vertex x, and we took 2 away to find a point on each side. 2 squared is 4 plus 3 is 7. Got the same thing. So we had our 3 points that we needed. We're upgrading just a tad. These two quadratic functions have a b term. So we're going to practice that. And what happens when one is positive and the first term is negative. So the first thing that we would do, first of all, you've got to know that x equal the opposite of b over 2a. That's where you start. That's your starting place. That is your vertex x. In this particular function, let's label them. A is going to be the coefficient of your x squared term. Here, it would be that understood 1 again. It keeps popping up. Your second coefficient, or your b, is negative 4. And your third is negative 2, or your c value. We don't really use that in graphing right now in this video. That'll come a little bit later. Let's just focus on a vertex and 2 points on each side of the vertex. And what it'll do when a is positive or negative. We're going to talk about that as well. My chart, let's get my vertex. So x equal the opposite of b over 2a. So my b is negative 4 over 2 times my a, which is 1. The opposite of a negative is 4 over 2. So my vertex x is 2. To find the y value, plug 2 in for your x, and we'll find the y value. So that's 2 squared minus 8 minus 2, negative 6. 2 negative 6 is your vertex. There it is. And if we add a couple of points to the right of 2 in the opposite direction, we'll use x is 4. If we take away, let's use x is 0. And find, again, f of 4 and f of 0. F of 0 is easy to find, isn't it? 0 minus 0, negative 2. And since we're going distance that's equal on each side, that's symmetry right through the middle of that parabola. So if you go the same distance on each side, your y values would be the same. Of course, we'd want to check it, right? So 0, we've got negative 2. 4, we've got negative 2. So at 0, negative 2 is a point. At 4, negative 2 is a point. And there's your parabola. Notice that this parabola is facing up. It's facing up because this A value is positive. According to your listening guide, if the A value is positive, the graph opens up. If the A value is negative, the graph opens down. So you can back up, regraph this, and see if you get the same thing. And then we're going to move to the second one. This A value is negative. So A is -2. B is, again, -4. And C is +1. So step 1 would be to find your vertex X, which is the opposite of my B term over 2 times -2. 4 over a -4 is -1 for my vertex X. F of -1. This gets kind of tricky, and this is a problem area. I want you to be very careful. We'll talk about it more in class. Plug -1 in for X. If you use your calculator, you better be sure you're calculating right. You plug it in. That would be -2 times 1, which is be -2, plus 4 plus 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. That's our vertex. This could be a problem right here, so you have to be very careful. Exponents come first, remember, in your order of operations. Now, I'm going to go to the right a couple of values, back up a couple of values. That would be +1 and a -3. And we do the same calculation. Evaluate the function when X is +1. Plus 1 would be a -2 minus 4 plus 1. That should be a -5. And F of -3. And I want you to be sure and practice these calculations and make sure you get the same thing that I get. Or you can use your store function in your calculator. You can ask me about that in class. We talked about it, but I'll show you again. We have -18 plus 12 plus 1. -6 plus 1 is -5 again. So we have 3 points. First, we have our vertex at -1, 3. At 1, -5, we have a point. And at 3, -5. Our parabola opens down. It opens down again because A is negative. So back up, try these by yourself. Make sure you have a good handle. There's some questions on a quiz, so be sure you take that, and I'll see you in class.